Hey, my name is Lizzie Smiley, and I absolutely love helping people connect with their calling and all the tools they need to kick roadblocks and excuses right out the door so they can cultivate the life they dream about. If you want to launch, grow, pivot, or scale your Etsy shop, or you've always wanted to develop the mindset and skills to run your own business, then I'm your girl. I've had that entrepreneurial spirit going strong since my very first lemonade stand, and now I'm a work-at-home mama with multiple online companies and a full-time Etsy shop, all while being present with my kids for the everyday chaos and most important milestones. On this podcast, we'll talk about all things business, mindset, Etsy, creativity, dazzling our customers, and so much more. There's plenty of room at this table for you, so scooch on in and let's go. I'm holding nothing back. Welcome to How to Sell Your Stuff on Etsy. I'm so glad you're here. Hey, you guys. Boy, am I excited that you just hit play on this episode. It will not disappoint. We should have to charge for this, myself included. I can't believe how much I just learned talking to Jude. Let me introduce you to him in just a second, but as we just a little bit of housekeeping, my mind is still spinning from talking to that. I literally can't get my brain on straight. He's so awesome. So first of all, please make sure that you submit your questions for the FAQ episode coming up. I'll have that linked in the show notes for you to be able to easily pop into the quick survey, put in your questions, and I would love to answer them for you. Anything about any part of Etsy, any kind of e-commerce, whatever, if you want to talk about ask about entrepreneurship as a mom and balancing schedules, anything, it's all fair game. Ask me anything and submit those. And then we are a few weeks in now on the weekly trend spotting and product opportunities service that I don't even know what to call it yet. It's over amateur hour over here. I don't know what to call it yet. All I know is that these things are jam-packed with like a whole bestseller overview with like a list of the trends that are going crazy and a video showing you where we're seeing that and how to apply it. And it's firing me up every week in my own like product creation. And then also 5 product opportunities, a couple of digital product opportunities, a couple of print on demand, how to position it, what you could sell, why it's in demand, how I found it. So it's literally like lesson in there. And I wanted to read you a little comment I got. So we're just a few weeks in, and Rose's Cookie Shop on Instagram says, I'm really enjoying the weekly trend generator. Definitely gets my wheels turning. So it's so fun being so early days and people are already just spinning and buzzing about it. I'm feeling a little frisky. So if you put in the code KEEP20, I'll have this available for a week. So this code will be valid from today, Thursday, October 3rd, through the 17th, through Thursday, October 17th. Put in KEEP20 when you check out. Usually it's $37 a month, but you're going to get it for $20 off. So you're going to get in for $17 a month, and you're going to get, when you get in there, not only are you going to get an email from me every Monday, but you're going to get access to the membership area where you can see all the videos, and you're going to get all of September's videos and October's videos. So you're going to get like massive, but like so much trend information and product opportunities. And I just want to like gift that to you. So crazy deal right there. Grab that if you've been thinking about it. And for $17, you'll get like 8 weeks worth of trends minimum. Okay, now that I've just given you a word salad about that, let me tell you about Jude Charles. You're going to hear our story of how we connected here in a minute when I bring him on, but I'm going to read you his bio. For over 18 years, Jude Charles has been producing documentaries for entrepreneurs. He has produced stories for Google, Steve Harvey, and dozens of visionary CEOs. Jude is the author of Dramatic Demonstration. This book is a roadmap that teaches you how to dig deep to find compelling stories that no one else knows, and then leverage those stories to grow your business. Jude's mission is to lead and empower entrepreneurs to have relentless, unwavering courage. Okay, have you heard the phrase that facts sell and stories sell? It's a little bit of a canned thing, but it's so true. And we all know a picture's worth 1,000 words. Stories are everything. But a lot of times when it comes to our e-commerce businesses, we don't necessarily know how to use stories practically to position our product. So that's why we're having Jude on today. And he is going to open up your mind. This man is deep. There are so many layers of truths and lessons to be heard here today. So let's learn about storytelling. Oh, get your favorite drink. Come up to the fireside. This is one of my favorite conversations ever on the podcast. Please help me welcome Jude to the podcast. Hey, Jude, welcome to the podcast.
Lizzie, thank you for having me. It's a episode I've definitely been looking forward to.
You're too kind. The pleasure is all mine. We have to tell the little background of how we even. I honestly still don't understand how you know me, but I heard you on, was it Allison J. Prince's podcast?
Yep.
And she's been on this podcast too. That was another, the two of you are blowing my mind. That was over a year ago though. That was an incredible episode. I should link that. I'll make a note of that.
Yep.
But then I joined your email list because you're very compelling and you're very calm, which is what I need in my life. And your emails are incredible. Like I actually read your emails typically, which is, we don't usually do that. So that's our little connection story. And then you somehow paid attention and reached out to me. I'll let you talk about that part.
Yeah, I did. The reason I reached out to you is because you're on my email list. And anyone who gets on my email list normally has to apply to be on the list. And I remember actually when you first applied, I made an asterisk next to your name because I read every application that comes in. And I just paid attention. I paid attention to what you were doing because you mentioned you had a podcast, but I also was just paying attention to, okay, what kind of podcast and what is she doing and how is she doing it? And yeah, it just, the time was right for me to reach out to you and say, hey, let's actually have a conversation now.
I don't know how you have the time for that, but I am in utter awe. My jaw's on the floor. I can't believe that. That is next level. And that explains a lot about how you've gotten as far as you have. You're a really different guest for us. We really stay in Etsy, but what you teach is so perfect for Etsy sellers. Like, we're so lucky to have you. So would you just tell us your story? Like, tell us where you came from and who you are and how you became a master storyteller?
At 17 years old, I was sitting in a TV production classroom, and my teacher at the time, Mrs. Donnelly, she taught me everything she knew about video production. And then at the end of the school year, towards the end of that junior year of high school, she looked at me and she was like, Jude, you're really, really talented at video production. You should start a business. Now, Lizzie, I'm the youngest of 10 children. My father worked as a construction worker. My mom worked at a chair factory. None of my siblings were entrepreneurs. So I had no idea what Mrs. Donnelly meant when she said, you should start a business. But the following day, I'll never forget, May 5th, 2006, the following day, Mrs. Donnelly came into the classroom with a yellow envelope. And I was like, what is this? And she's like, look inside. And so when I looked inside, Lizzie, May 5th, 2006, Mrs. Donnelly handed me my very first set of business cards. That is how I got started in video production 18 years ago. And it is the work that I continue to do today, helping entrepreneurs tell their story through a documentary or a documentary series, but it's bringing their stories to life visually. Please
tell me she knows where you've gone.
Absolutely. I still keep in contact with Mrs. Donnelly. She's in her last year of teaching. And I wanted to find, because I still have the business cards on my desk, and I wanted to show it to you.
This is a good reason for y'all.
I had it framed.
Jump over to YouTube right now if you're listening, guys. Oh my gosh, it's framed.
And so, I still talk to her to this day. She's in her last year of teaching and will be retiring this year as we record this. But yeah, she knows. She knows. And I always credit her no matter what. She says that it wasn't just giving me the business cards. It was something in me. She was like, you still had to do the work. This was just something that helped push me to do the work that I'm doing today.
I think that's a profound thing for a teacher to do, though. Like, what talk about, I mean, every single one of us, we want someone to believe in us and to see something on that level. We all want to be seen so badly. And I think majority of us don't necessarily experience that. How profound. Okay. This is going to sound a little strange, maybe, Jude, but as someone who does not have an eye, as you've observed from my videos, I don't understand videography, and I don't connect the dots between videography and storytelling. Can you help me with that? Like, help me understand why that makes you such a good storyteller.
Yeah. So when you are holding a camera, let's just say even something as simple as your iPhone, right? You're holding your iPhone and you are looking to document whatever's happening around you. There are sequences. There are things happening in different orders. Well, storytelling is very much the same way. When you tell a story, very simple terms, a story is about a very specific moment in time. So you're going to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Video is very much the same way. You're going to have a beginning where you might show a building that you're getting ready to walk into. Then you might have the middle, right, where you show yourself in the building and things that are going on. And then you show the end where you're probably heading back home for the rest of the day, right? Video is very much the same way. If you are an Etsy owner and you are creating products on Etsy and you're taking me behind the scenes of the products that you're actually creating, but let's say you run into a roadblock where you're creating this product and then your machine breaks down and you're not even sure why the machine is not working anymore. That entire moment of this machine breaking down is a journey. And the only thing that changes when you now put video with it is the medium, the journey, the actual documenting of this journey. You could document a journey through video, you could document a journey through writing, but you could also document a journey through audio, which is how podcasts have blown up, right? Because we get to hear the stories of people and where they come from and how they've built the businesses that they've built. Video is very much that same thing. It's just a visual format that we can see and experience. And the reason that I happen to love video, I happen to create it, is because it's an emotional journey that really allows that person to be in the room with you, even if they're thousands of miles away. You are transformed and transitioned into their life. And that's why I happen to love video.
Okay, but if my machine broke down, I'm having a panic attack and I don't want anyone to know. So you've kind of opened up my brain a little bit. You're talking about sharing a story that I would intuitively hide.
Yeah, but why?
I guess I don't want my customers to think, I might not get my order in time. I'm going to get an influx of DMs. I want them to think I'm professional. Things are running smoothly. Like so fear, right? Or not wanting to add to my plate.
Fear, but when you think about it, none of us are perfect, including the businesses that we run they're not perfect. And I agree. There's some downside, right? There's some downside to, this person is going to think, this organization, this business doesn't have their stuff together. But on the other side of that, they know what it takes to get that order out the door, right? They know they have this deeper connection with you now because they understand you're going to do whatever it takes to get their order out the door. As an Etsy owner, you're looking at, how do I stand out? There might be someone else that sell the same thing that you sell. But one of the ways that I love to tell people that you need to stand out is through connection. That is the only way you're going to be able to stand out, is through connection. And when you start to record behind the scenes and you start to share your story, the one thing no one else can duplicate is how you got to where you are today. The one thing no one else can duplicate is you. Because even though someone else might be selling what you're selling, they're not you. And so that, to me, is like, there's a larger upside to being able to document the journey that you're on. And it may not be something bad happening necessarily. It may not be the machine is breaking down. It may just be how much fun you're having in doing and creating the products that you're creating. But at the end of the day, they get to connect with you. They get to see the face behind the brand. They get to understand why you're so passionate about what you're doing. That, to me, is so much more important than trying to hide and look perfect. It's not just fear. I think society has taught us to be perfect, right? And that's the furthest thing from what actually needs to happen. In 2010, I woke up one morning to the sounds of chains hitting the floor. And it had always been a nightmare for me to hear these chains hitting the floor. Lizzie, when I got up out of bed, I went to the front window. What was happening was my car was being repossessed for the second time in 8 months.
Oh my gosh.
I was so heartbroken. I went back in my room. I sat on the edge of my bed in a soup of anxiety, my head in my hands, and I'm thinking, what do I do now? It's 5 years in business. I've been trying to run this business, struggling to make $20,000 a year. And here it is, my car is getting repossessed for the second time in 8 months. In that moment, I get a phone call from a client I had been working with. Her name is Keisha Dior. She was selling colored lipstick. And Keisha calls me in excitement. She's like, Jude, you won't believe it. You won't believe it. I'm like, what happened, Keisha? She's like, I just got off the phone with my accountant and he said we made $1 million. Well, Lizzie, in her first year of running this cosmetic business, selling lipstick online, she had made $1 million. I had been in business for 5 years, struggling to make $20,000 a year. And I had a decision to make in that moment. I could go down one road, which is, hey, here's proof. I don't know what I'm doing. Here's a client who's made $1 million in a year. Or I could look at it in a different way and go down a different road and say, this is proof that I have brought value to a client. Maybe I just need to go back and learn marketing and sales and learn how to actually build this business the right way. Now, of course, I'm sitting here with you today and I learned how to do marketing and sales. And that's why I've been able to continue to run this business 13 years after that moment. But why do I share that story with you, Lizzie? It's because that is a story that I share with others to show them who I am. Part of my purpose is to lead and empower entrepreneurs to have relentless courage. That is a moment that I had courage to continue, even though really I had every reason to quit. But it's also an embarrassing moment where I'm talking about my car getting repossessed for the second time in 8 months. I'm talking about struggling to make money. But what it does is it opens the door where you get to know who I am on a deeper level beyond, that's the guy that talks about storytelling, or that's the guy that does documentaries for entrepreneurs. You get to know who Jude Charles is beyond the thing that he does. And so why I'm adamant about, like, I get it. There's fear and there's like, I don't want people to think bad things. There's also, they're going to think great things because they're going to be champions of you. And they're going to be like, oh, that's why I order from Lizzie. That's why no matter what happens, you know what? The order might be a week, 2 weeks late, but I know she's going to do whatever it takes to make sure my order gets out the door. To me, there's a larger upside than hiding behind trying to look perfect.
You've convinced me. And I do think a lot of makers have transitioned into, everything is content and finding just all the moments of something unusual happening, something to share. I think, so there's other aspects of Etsy, and this might be something you'll want to chew on a bit, but there's different things that we can sell, right? We can sell physical handmade goods, and those are the easiest for most of us to imagine creating story around. And like our little listing video, it's really easy, or like our about video, or if we go on social, it feels easier to document. But a lot of people also sell print on demand items, which are things where they've designed them, but someone else is making them and shipping them. So there's none of that beautiful behind the scenes. And then the other one that's really big is digital products, where there's literally, we're just kind of creating in Canva, and then the documents being delivered to the, I know you know this, I'm giving this like the benefit of the listener, but like then the document is just delivered by Etsy straight to the customer when they buy. And I think, typically I think in those two, they're less likely to go on to social media, but they still have a story to tell within their shop. And I know for me, my brain gets a little fuzzy on how do I create story around this? Like it doesn't feel as romantic. And I don't know if you have any practical thoughts about that.
I do. I think the easiest way to create stories around digital products that you have that aren't as tangible is that you need to make meaning of the item. So what does that mean? Let's take something as simple as the newsletter you mentioned. I write a newsletter called the Dramatic Leverage Newsletter. And in that newsletter, I am sharing a lot more than storytelling. It's really, for me, it's a way to talk about leadership and to talk about mindset. There's an email that I sent out before called The Hidden Costs Behind My 1 Month Break. Every year I take 2 months off, June and December. And I started doing that back in 2013, primarily because I'm an introvert. I need the time off. But after I burnt out in 2020, so after burnout, I switched it to June and December. I used to do November, December. Now I switched it to June and December. And what that means is I get to work 5 months and take 1 month off. Now, in the email, I think I wrote something about another idea that I don't drive. I don't own a car. I only take Uber. And part of that is because I want my time back. I get to get work done in the car. And so I broke down in this email the whole idea behind that. And then I think I went on to talk about what I do during my 1 month break. Well, I got an email from someone that was on the email list, and she said to me, I think she said something to the effect of, my daughter's in her 20s. She has Asperger's. I just forwarded this email to her because she can't drive and she kind of beats herself up about it. And I sent this to her to hopefully give her hope to realize there might be beauty in the idea that she doesn't get to drive. Now, I write this newsletter from a business perspective. I don't write it from the perspective of trying to help someone with Asperger's. But man, does that feel good to know, like, this didn't just hit home for an entrepreneur. It hit home for a mother who wants to instill hope in her daughter. That is a story where I can make this newsletter tangible to say, hey, this isn't just about business. There's so much deeper concepts that I share. But you wouldn't be able to understand that if I just said, Lizzie, this is more than just about business. This is a newsletter that I share, right? That's just a statement. This is a newsletter that I write that goes deep. That's just a statement. But the fact that I just told you the story about a mother who wants to instill hope into her daughter, that she forwards this email. That's a story. That's a very specific moment in time. I got an email response from someone telling me I forwarded this to my daughter. Right? With digital products, there are these moments that happen. Like I actually think about one of your products. I think you have a product called List to Sell, correct? Listings to
Listings that
Sell?
sell. Yes. Yeah, it's a course.
How do we go deeper with that? Like, what is a story about Listings to Sell, which is just a digital product, that tells me what this is really about? Not just the transformation that people get, because there's one specific comment I want to hone in on, but how would you tell the story of that, of Listings to Sell, Listings that sell?
When I'm casting the vision of listings that sell, I make the content. So like, for example, my Instagram, it's me sharing a lot of tips and ideas and casting vision and tearing down mental blocks for people that like, that's the first part of it when I'm creating content for it. I don't go and like create reels showing about the course. I'm talking about where this can take you. Well, you just said the transformation. So I don't think I'm getting it right, Jude. Do you want to probe me with another question?
What I'm looking for is like, there is a story. There's a comment. There's a testimony you have on that page that says something to the effect of, this person, before they took listings that sell, they were only selling 3 to 5 sales. They were only getting 3 to 5 sales a year, but now they get about a sale a day, right? What I think about in that moment when I'm hearing that is, what does life look like after now? This person might have only been selling 300 a year. Now she's selling possibly 3,000 to 30,000 a year. How has her life changed? What was she feeling like before? Now that she's gotten this after result, how has her life changed? And here's what I mean by that. This is a hypothetical story. This could be a mother of 3 who primarily spends most of her time taking care of the home, but has wanted to build something for herself. She wanted her children to see her as much more than just a mother who stays at home and takes care of home. She wants them to see a mother who's going after her dreams, who's doing something that's creative and brings her to life, brings something that she's doing that brings her to life every single day, that she's passionate about. And you gave her that opportunity to do that. Where her child came home one day, and maybe the child's in elementary school, and she said, "Mom, I was bragging about you today to one of my friends and telling them how much I love seeing you happier now." And it's made it all worth it that she took Listings that Sell. She took that course because it made it tangible that this wasn't just about selling a couple more items on Etsy. This was about how her daughter looks at her. The reason I went down that rabbit hole is because, although it's a digital product, it's just a course, right? Quote unquote, just a course. There are these moments in time that make this course real and emotional. And those are the stories that we need to find. We need to be actively listening. When someone says, "Hey, this is what happened," wait, tell me more about that. How has that changed your life? Like, I talk about this lady that sent it to her daughter. I could follow up and say, "Hey, what did your daughter think?" Right? Like, the digital products, although they're just products, you can bring them to life by making meaning of. It's not just the fact that it's the product. What is the emotion behind that product? Whether it's physical or digital, what is the emotion behind it that really brings it to life?
You're on an entirely different wavelength, sir. like the way that so this is all piecing together for me now. I'm like, this gentleman goes, and I mean, I probably never have a guest go as far into research as you have. And the follow-up, I'm just thinking, what if we as Etsy sellers had got a really great review from somebody and they just said, "Oh, I loved your like Santa Claus printable, like letter from Santa print, where he left it." And we could actually just DM them on Etsy and be like, "I saw your note. Like, thank you so much. What did your kids think?" And we could ask one more question and we could get a paragraph of literally bananas. Like, it's not just this was a great printable. It's like, my kids were so excited. It made it so much more magical. And our holiday was it was on a whole different level of special. Like, with just one more question that you ask, Jude, that we're not thinking to ask. I'm almost speechless.
And let's take that deeper, because I talked earlier about, let's go deeper, because earlier I talked about how we're all looking to stand out. what other Etsy owner do you know that is going a step further to say, well, tell me more about that? The reason I want to go deeper with that, because you started our conversation by saying so many people want to be seen. There's
Yes.
two of the most important desires that human beings have is to be seen and to be heard. And you reaching out to say to someone, oh, I saw your comment. Tell me more about that. You first told them, I see you. Now you're telling them, I want to hear more from you. And then they're opening up the woodworks. Like we started this by you asking, like, I don't even know how I got on your radar. Like, that's what you said to me. You was like, how did I even get on your radar? Like, I don't even think I play in the same world as you. And it's like, no, I see you. I'm paying attention. Part of the reason that I make people apply to be on my newsletter is because I believe one of my core values is depth versus width. It's not about how many people I have on my email list or how many people are reading it, as much as do I have a meaningful relationship with each one? Do I know each one? If I notice someone's on my newsletter and they haven't opened the emails, they get taken off. And that's something I'm very open about in the very beginning.
I got a warning email like that once from you, and it freaked me out. I was freaking out. I'm here. I just had a baby.
Because I want people to know, like, we have a connection, we have a relationship. And so, yes, I took the time before this podcast to look at what you sell, to look at what you talk about. I've paid attention for the last year since you've been on the newsletter, because this conversation changes when I pay attention. And in business, the foundational thing that I believe business is we talk about relationships in business and how you need to form a relationship. Pay attention. And the way that you pay attention is by asking more questions, actively listening when someone says, oh, this was great. And then you take it a step further and say, wait, tell me more, because I saw you just said this was great. Or I just heard you say this was great. Tell me more, right? What happened? Like you said, you asked the question, what happened? What did your kids think when they saw the Santa Claus sticker, right? And imagine the stories that comes out of that, right? The imagination for this child, even though it's a sticker, it's just something as simple as a sticker. But it brings so much joy to that child's life. And the parent gets to say, I did that. I bought this for them, and it brought so much joy. But again, that's how we go deeper. That's how we find the stories to be able to tell, is just ask more questions.
That's really nice, because we needed a simple, practical thing here, because your brain is immense. And I'm just trying to bring it down to some of the practical too, it's just awesome. So what's so cool about that is, you ask the question, you're crossing off the customer service box. So you're looking like a rock star, making this person be like, wow, there's a real person behind this. You're gathering a bigger testimonial that can help you cast vision and sell more products, but you're also deepening a relationship, because one of the main laws of entrepreneurship is it's easy to sell to someone who's already bought from you than to sell to a brand new customer. Am I getting this? Am I starting to learn a little bit?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It's much easier to sell to someone who's purchased from you, especially when there's a conversation that's going, right? Like, part of why I love to not only read the responses I get from newsletters, but then respond to them, is because it starts a conversation. Whereas the newsletter can feel like, oh, there's just this mass email that's going out. It's like, oh no, now I have access to this person. Before we sat down and started recording, like, even you in our conversation, you're just like, wait, I have access to you now, and I'm so nervous. And it's just like, there's nothing to be nervous about. We've already been talking. We're already friends. Like, there's nothing to be nervous about. But that creates a friendship. That creates value. We always hear this idea of value, give value, give value. And to be honest with you, Lizzie, I've never really understood what that meant in the beginning when I first started hearing that. But then over time, I realized the value is the story. The value is you. And there's this 3-dimensional way of giving value. There's the value that the person gets. There's the value that you bring. And then there's the value that you already bring to others that inspires them. It's like a wheel that continues to go around and around, right? They're ingrained into your world because you're providing value in such a deep way. And so, yeah, it's when you have these deeper conversations, it's a deeper relationship that this becomes more than transactional. It is now a relationship that you get to have with this person, possibly for a lifetime, possibly even if you decide to go do something else, they still want to follow you because it's not about the thing that you do. It's about who you are.
Are you ready to start building your social media presence to help market your Etsy products, but not quite sure where to start? I am so excited to tell you guys about the social media membership that I'm a part of called Julie's Biz Boutique. My friend, Julie Oxendine, started out selling wreaths on Etsy and has built a monster of a social media presence of over 1 million followers who buy her products, her tutorials, and her courses. She is the queen of Etsy social media coaches, and I cannot recommend her more highly. She's also so relatable and genuinely interested in helping you grow, which is just my kind of gal. Her monthly membership will keep you up to date on how to best leverage all of the platforms with their ever-changing algorithms and connect you with a wonderful community of like-minded makers. As a member, you will also get immediate access to Julie's library of over 100 training videos on everything from Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Etsy, and even more. I could keep going on. It's the best bang for your buck that you can get to learn so much about social media and find the inspiration and help you need to start growing your following. Fun little secret too, I got to plug this in. Julie's membership only opens to the public for new members a couple times a year, but since she loves us so much, we get special treatment and you can join us right now. So just go to howtosellyourstuff.com/Julie to learn more and get enrolled today. Once again, that is howtosellyourstuff.com/Julie. And I can't wait to hang out with you there. What was that? Is it the Dale Carnegie book? Winning Friends and Influence People? Yeah.
Yeah, that's Dale Carnegie, I believe. Yeah,
Very
yeah.
good. Very true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So on Etsy, we get, for our listings, we get 10 photos that we can use to position our product. And we always talk about, I love what you were talking about, connection, because we always talk about how the first photo needs to create an emotional connection because someone's going through the search. That's how they find you. You happen to show up in a sea of competitors and you need them to see yours and say, that's it. Emotional connection. That's the one by that picture. We also get, the second thing is a 15-second silent listing video. And I would love, as your whole perspective on this, if you have any tips for us on how we can be positioning in those very key places, again, in a sea of competition to create that connection.
So when you are looking to visually stand out, I have this thing called the dramatic demonstration of proof. There are 5 dramatic demonstrations. There's behind the scenes, which we talked a little bit about. There's live illustration. That means you're using this item in a live way. So for example, when I speak, I talk about burnout because I burned out in 2020. And then I talk about the idea of having to rebuild myself back up again. And so in doing that, I play with, while I'm speaking live on stage, I play with a Jenga set. And I'm removing Jenga pieces because on the pieces, there's words like start working on your core values or start doing certain things. And then there's the things to stop doing. So stop thinking you need a brand new website. Stop thinking that you need to listen to just another podcast, right? Like, so there's these start and stops. And the whole point of that is that when I take away the pieces in Jenga, normally when you play, you put it back on top. Well, I talk about taking it away and never putting it back on top. And what you notice is that the structure still holds. Structure still standing. So you don't need all the things that you thought you needed. That's live illustration. There's social proof, which we talked a little bit about. That's the testimonials. There's unique mechanism. So unique mechanism is your unique process or way of doing something. There could be a lot of different things for that. And then there's transformation, the before and after. But I like to think of life after. I've shared a few examples. One example that I love to share is a fitness instructor who she coaches women who are over 40. And there's this day that she got a text message from one of her clients. And in the text message is of an empty airplane. And then the text says, this is the first time in my life. Mind you, she's over 40. This is the first time in my life I'm getting on an airplane and I don't have to ask for a seatbelt extension. Mm-hmm. When you're looking at the visual, you mentioned that it's 15 seconds of just silence. Visuals still communicate something when you see it. So whether that's a live illustration of, let's take the Santa Claus sticker that you mentioned earlier. If it's the Santa Claus sticker and it's in different environments, they can see beyond just, okay, I'm going to show you what this printable looks like. Let me see it in different environments. Let me see maybe ideas that I wasn't even thinking about or how I could use this, right? That's a live illustration. Social proof might be the user generated content that you might get back from clients when they're showing you what this product looks like when they're using it, right? Unique mechanism. Now, there's a few different ways you can do unique mechanism, and that just may be the unique way you go about seeing something and how you create it. Maybe there's a unique process you take in creating these stickers. Like there's I forget her name now, but there's a woman on Instagram who creates these amazing jackets out of sports jackets, right? Out of sports teams. And she shows you the one thing, but then she shows you how she's actually putting it together. And then the final product, and it's like, whoa, like I didn't even think that's what it was going to be in the end, right? But there's a unique way that she sees it. And so I think when you're looking, people are looking at your product, looking at your item, whether it's digital or physical, and they're thinking to themselves, why should I buy from you? You've created this, but why you? Why this? Why you? And one of the ways that you could stand out, again, we talked about connection, but another way that you could stand out is through visually just showing them, this is not like anything you've seen. This is different. And because it's different, this is why you should buy it.
Oh my gosh, so much food for thought. I'm all like print on demand. Yeah, I think there's, especially for physical products and digital, it's a little bit easier because digital, you just show them how they're using it. You're in Canva doing a video showing them how they use the printable or whatever the digital item is. Physical is easy. You just show it in 3-dimensional reality. Print on demand, I typically just suggest maybe like a slideshow. To be able to show maybe it on different colors or in different applications, or you could even use it. You know what would be this just came to me right now. Outfits. I was shopping last night for some fall clothes online, and I love when they suggest like the whole outfit. I know they're just upselling me, but I don't care, Jude. I just love because I don't have the eye. So you could even show it in different, like if you're making a t-shirt, well, here's how it looks like on the beach over a swimsuit. Here's what it looks like is it still a thing to French tuck? Don't ask me, into your jeans. And so different outfits could be really cute.
Yeah, it could. But I mean, even yourself and how you're using, how you're buying online, you're saying like, I don't know how to put these things together. You need the ideas, right? You need the ideas. And that is why we're talking about showing this visually, because oftentimes we don't know what to, like, we kind of have an idea, but we really don't know. And so, yeah, that's why I think it's critical in this day and age to not only show different ways to use it, but then to tell me something I can relate to. Like, you're going to tell me the features that it has, but then tell me something I can relate to. And oftentimes the thing that I can relate to is the story of how other people are using this. Like, I have a really cool, so I sell a book called The Dramatic Demonstration Book. It's my life's work, what I've been doing the last 18 years. But something I did different that I believe about with books is when you buy a book and it's a book that's trying to teach you something, you should have a notebook that comes with it, right? So every physical copy of the Dramatic Demonstration Book, when you buy it, it comes with a notebook. Well, I happened to be talking to a customer once, just following up with them, seeing, what they thought of the book and have they been able to apply anything that they learned from the book. And Lizzie, something that surprised me, I never would have imagined. This guy, he has 2 daughters. I think one is 18 months, the other is 4. And he said to me, I'm a little ashamed to say this, but I'm actually not using your notebook for the book. I'm not using it for the Dramatic Demonstration Book. He was like, I don't know why I had the idea, but I started journaling in the book, in this notebook, to my 4-year-old daughter. And I want to give her this notebook when she turns 18. It's just notes that I've been writing to her for the past, 14 years.
Gosh.
And I'm listening to him and I'm like, again, I thought this was I just thought this was a product. I just thought, this is a good idea. Let me make sure they have a notebook. It's something different in the way I can stand out. It sparked in his mind, let me write. And he could have bought his own notebook, right? Like, he could have done this on his own. But for some reason, when he received that package, what came up in his mind, this is such a great notebook that I can give my daughter when she turns 18, so that she has these stories and these ideas and these values that I want to instill in her. She has it in physical form, right? The point that I want to make, and I want to drive home, if you've been listening to this, is that everything that we do, there's something so much deeper. You might look at it on the surface as like, I I'm just selling some stickers, or I'm just putting out some products. No, there's something that you're doing, and you can only do it the way that you do it. You do it differently. There's something that you're doing that's making this person look at this in a different way. And what I'm saying is lean into that. Oftentimes we can discount what we really have. The story I told you about Mrs. Donnelly in the very beginning, for 5 years, maybe even 10 years, I never really shared that story because I was just like, oh, so what? A teacher gave me business cards. Like, big deal. Like, I was discounting the value that I have. And I want to make sure as people listen to this, they don't discount the value that they bring. It's not just stickers. It's not just printables. It's not just a pattern that you created. There's something so much deeper. And that's what you want to be able to communicate that value. And so be able to communicate that value, communicate it through storytelling.
Jude, we're all losing it, desperate to see that journal now. Holy cow. What I'd love to hear from you about is you have a tool called the Story Bank Journal concept. And
Yes.
when I read about it on your website, I was just like, wow, this could really help us start to capture what we need. Can you tell us about that and how we might use it practically?
Yeah. So in my own business, I've been looking at how do I get better at storytelling? How do I tell stories? How do I communicate the value that I bring to others? And part of that was literally just starting years ago. Every day I would take a few minutes at the end of the day and write down the stories that had happened for that day. So what happened that day? And what ended up happening is that I created this story bank journal, which gives you prompts on asking you questions on like stories that you might not be thinking about. And so in the story bank journal, it's the way I started it, at least it was, I just wrote down a headline. So a title for the story. And then I just jotted down some notes on what actually happened and then possible lessons from that story. So I mentioned earlier stories about a very specific moment in time and then the lesson that you learned in that moment in time. Well, we talked about like finding stories through just asking more questions from your clients. When I get those responses from clients and customers, I put that in my story bank journal. And that is to me the way that because some people will think, oh, I don't have any stories to share, or I have so many stories, I don't know how to make sense of it, right? Have one place. The reason I call it a story bank is because in the same way that you deposit money into your bank, that's the only way that you're able to withdraw it. The only way you'll be able to withdraw the stories, to be able to find the stories to share, is if you deposit them. You take the time to deposit them in one location. And I happen to call it the Story Bank Journal. That's what I created to be able to allow you to do that. There's so many opportunities as to where you can find stories. It's not just in asking your customers, but it can be in the random moments that happen throughout the day. Something I love to do, like just about every 3 months, 3 to 6 months, is I'll just sit one day and I'll look through all the photos and videos in my phone that I've captured over the last month. And those are stories that I might have forgotten, right? When I'm watching a TV show, I've been watching Your Honor on Netflix lately, and there's a story that Adam tells in the show about his mother and how she used to take random pictures of people and share it with them. But then the people would get upset because they were random candid pictures that they weren't expecting she was taking. But then she would sit with them. And the lesson that she taught Adam was just be still, be present, be there with people, even if they get upset with you. I wrote that down in my story bank journal because I'm like, oh, that's such a powerful lesson. Like, I didn't see that coming. I love to read books. It's another place where I'll see a good story. I'll take that and I'm like, oh, okay, this might be something I can use somewhere else, right? The Story Bank Journal is one place for you to begin to practice this idea of storytelling. We are all storytellers. We tell stories every single day. This is just an opportunity to be more intentional while you're building your business. You are connecting with people. This is an opportunity to be very intentional about the stories that you tell and how you go about telling those stories.
I am your perfect client. I need that so desperately because I know the power of storytelling, and I know I have a gift of communication. Okay, funny story. When I first started this podcast, I probably had, I don't know, like maybe 30 to 40 episodes under my belt. And I had kind of my little bank of stories, my Etsy stories from my sign shop days. And apparently I told them too much because I had, and she was being so sweet, but I'm telling you, it like wrecked my confidence for a little bit. And she's just like, okay, grandpa, like you keep repeating it. And I'm just like, oh, I know. But I'll tell you what, I'm constantly going, I'm constantly thinking, I'm the Energizer Bunny. And at the end of the day, I sit there and not at the end of the day, I actually think that's a brilliant idea. I sit down to make a reel or a mini course or a lead magnet. And I'm like, I don't have any stories that I haven't told. And I can't think of them. So that's literally perfect. So are there prompts? How does it work, Jude? Are there prompts in there or is it just open? I know creatives usually like open space.
So
Lizzie likes instructions.
There's two different options. There's prompts, but there's also open space where you can just randomly write down a story. Like maybe something really cool happened that day and you're thinking, oh, I really need to jot this down. So there's that, but then there's prompts on like I think one of the prompts is, tell me about your first car you ever drove, right? Because again, it sparks ideas in your mind. The whole idea behind the prompts is that it sparks other ideas in your mind. It just gets you going. Sometimes all you need is to just get started. There's a story that I know in my story bank called Uber Driver by Day, Musician by Night. And it's really just a short story of how this Uber driver, I was going to the airport one morning and she was taking me and she literally had this whole setup of playing her music. She's an R&B singer, and first she played India RE. No, when I first got in the car, she said to me, hey, do you mind if I play music? And I was like, yeah, sure. And she was like, you're good with R&B? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, okay, I'm going to play India RE. And she let it play. And then she was like, just to let you know, my song is coming up next. And I was like, oh, well, that's a nice setup. As a marketer, as a person that's thinking about sequences, I'm like, that's a nice setup. But it was just a random story. I added it to my story bank journal. And so, yeah, there's prompts that will ask you certain questions that will ask you like, I think another one is your favorite day at school, I think was another one. And it's just a random, maybe you're going to think about elementary school. Maybe you're going to think about high school, like just thinking about something that randomly happened. That's the point of the story bank journal, is to just bring random ideas to your mind, because like you said, you get to sit down and you're thinking, oh, I need to create a landing page. Oh, I need to create this email. And you have no idea what you're going to write. But because you've taken down the time to write it, now all you have to do is go back and look through it. All you have to do is go back and say, hey, oh, this might be a good story that I could tell, right? Like I'm looking at my story bank journal now, and the last story I wrote, actually, I know this came from an Instagram video I saw. It was this guy that owns a bakery, and it was his first big account. He told the story of his first big account, and the first big account was making 26 cheesecakes. But what I thought was fascinating about this is this guy, I forget where he lived, but he lived in an apartment building. I wanted to say New York, but he lives in an apartment building, and he doesn't have a big commercial oven. So he recruits everybody that lives in his building, and he's like, hey, will you allow me to use your oven to make these 26 cheesecakes? And so he's running down the hallway and up and down to make all these cheesecakes just to fulfill his first order. And I'm like, oh, that's such a powerful story of doing whatever it takes, right? Like you have this dream and then you finally get your big break. How are you going to make it happen? He figured out a way to make it happen. I have no idea where I'm going to use that story, how I'm going to use that story, but I just knew it was a story that really stuck out to me. A random moment that happened to me last week or 2 weeks ago. I went to meet with a friend, and I remember we sat down to have lunch. He was like, how are you doing? It's like, I'm actually pretty good. And I was like, I have my good days. I have my bad days. I'm just trying not to get lost in the bad days. And Lizzie, his next question to me really, it's so simple, but I was just like, wow. He said to me, isn't that a blessing? Literally, he said it. I didn't say a word. He didn't say a word. And it hit me like I knew exactly what he meant. Isn't that a blessing that I could even think to myself, don't get lost in the bad days, that I'm even self-aware in that way to say, I have good days, I have bad days, but I'm not going to get lost in the bad days, because some people don't get that opportunity. They don't have that privilege, right? Random moment, very small, but these are the stories that we can use to be able to convey ideas and convey lessons to others Because it's not just about saying statements. It's not just about talking about how great you are when you're trying to sell something. What are the ideas, the lessons? What is the bigger mission and purpose behind what you're doing? There is one. There's this idea of starting with why. Why are you doing what you're doing, right? Even if it's selfish, even if you're just saying, I'm doing this so that my daughter can look at her mom and be proud, gives me a reason to care. Give me a reason to care about this. Give me a deeper reason to say, I want to take my hard-earned money and share it with you, and knowing that you're doing good in the world too, right? That's the point of the Story Bank Journal, is to just be able to have, there is no excuse as to, like you said, that storytelling is important. There's no excuse as to not being able to sit down and tell stories. It's just having one location for all these stories to live.
I think it's a brilliant solution to a problem we didn't even realize we had. And I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned from you here today, Jude, is that we overcomplicate this. Yeah. I'm looking for like, where's that big, life-changing, earth-shattering story? And it's just like, no, it can be so much more simple than that.
Yeah. It can be simple. It requires the time to do it. I'm looking through the physical journal that I started years ago. Oh, this is a really cool one. I've actually used this in the newsletter, but I wrote this down. Actually, so in the physical journal, I have the date, and this was written down, I guess, Christmas Eve. It was December 24th, 2019. And the title was "A Mother at the Dollar Tree store with her two sons." I didn't use this. There was a different story I used about a mother in a store, but it says one in a baby car seat or carriage. The other is about 5 or 6 years old. While in line at the checkout, the mother is teaching the son about money, how to calculate taxes. Taxes are 7%, and we're buying 4 items, so what's the tax? She says to the son. How much do we have to pay for taxes? She shows him by having him multiply 7 times 4. Anyway, this is a longer story, but the point is, I think, so he ends up figuring out the amount, but I wrote at the end, this young man is going to be very wealthy when he grows up. His mother may not have much, but what she has given her son is incredibly priceless. So I wrote the story down differently. I actually did use it in the newsletter. I wrote it down a little bit differently, but I thought to myself I didn't. But the point is, again, it's just a random moment in the store, right? And I think the way that I use it in the newsletter is to connect you to, because it reminded me of my own mother and the lessons that my parents have taught me that are priceless. It has nothing to do with running a business and all these other things. It's just about counting money and being responsible with money, right? We are all storytellers. We have random moments happening to us. We have random moments that we're inspired by if we're watching a TV show or reading a book. Use the stories. Use the stories to be able to connect with your audience, to connect with your customers, so that they understand who you are and what you bring that's different, so that you can stand out.
Are you a print-on-demand or digital product Etsy seller who's tight on time or still learning all of the Etsy secrets? I totally remember the days of having no idea what product to create next before I learned how to make those informed decisions so I can really identify with where you're at. I know how stressful and frustrating it can be to just create listing after listing and see little to no results. You wonder what you're doing wrong, and you just want someone to tell you what to create that's actually going to sell. Where are those opportunities? So let me give you a leg up with my weekly trends and opportunities report. You just join my membership, and every Monday, I'm going to send you an email with a list of exactly what is trending right now, with a video tutorial showing you how I found those trends and how to apply them in your shop. We're taking guesswork and extensive time off of your table. I'm also going to send you 5 print-on-demand and digital product opportunities that are growing in demand right now, helping new shops make sales and still have very low saturation in the marketplace. So your tight schedule, your newbie status doesn't have to hold you back anymore. I'm going to help you earn while you learn. You can grab my free demo to start and see an example of what the weekly trends and opportunities email looks like right from the show notes. See what you're going to get, and I will see you on the inside soon. You've already answered this in 1,000 different ways. and the very wise and perceptive will already know the answer. But for those of us who need it spelled out a little more, help us connect the dots between how storytelling will help increase our Etsy conversions.
One of the best things that anyone can say to me is, I remember this story that you told about X. You have an opportunity to live in someone's mind rent free. And when you're living in someone's mind rent free, there's such a deeper connection that makes them want to actually purchase. Like, they have convinced themselves, not you trying to convince them. They have convinced themselves, I have to buy from you. Not, oh, I was thinking about it. Not maybe, oh, that's on my list. No, I have to. There's a desire that happens when you share a story and you leave them with a lesson that they will remember forever. You may not remember all the information I shared today, but you will never forget Mrs. Donnelly and giving me the business cards. You will never forget the day that my car got repossessed and I decided I'm going to try one more time. You will never forget the hypothetical story that I shared about a mother's daughter coming home and saying that I bragged about you, Mom, to my friends because I was so happy to see you happy. When you take the time to share stories, it increases the conversion because it creates a desire, a deep desire for someone to purchase from you. There's a study that was done called Significant Objects. And what happened was these two journalists purchased trinkets, like random trinkets online or off of eBay. And they purchased them for like a quarter, some 50 cents, no more than $1. And they decided to resell these items on eBay. The only thing they added, and you can look up this study. I believe the website is significantobjects.com, but you can look this up. The only thing that they added was a story. And so they might have, I forget the exact number, but I think they purchased everything for about maybe $20, let's just say. When they resold all of the items, they had made an 8,000% profit on all of the items. I believe they sold, let me actually look it up at Wildwood because I want to give the specific number, because this is important. And this is the point, like you asked, like, how does this even help us increase conversions? The objects purchased were for $1.25 a piece on average. And all of the items sold for nearly $8,000 in total. Significantobjects.com. And if you're looking to increase your conversions, you're looking at, okay, I know I sell this thing and I know it might even be a bestseller. It might even be something that people are really enjoying. But if you can do 20% more in sales, wouldn't that be worth it? Wouldn't it be worth it to sit down and say, okay, I'm going to attach a story to this and see what people think? That is the way that you increase conversions, because again, you make a deeper meaning of this product than just a product. The Story Bank Journal is not just a tool that you use to make more money. The Story Bank Journal allows you to begin to create and document the legacy that you want to leave behind for your kids. In the same way that our grandparents used to tell us stories over and over, like the one person said to you, okay, grandpa, right? Because it's the same stories over and over being told. Well, here's your moment to sit down. Let's just say you're not going to use this for business. Like the one customer I mentioned who ended up using his notebook for a journal that he shares with his daughter. The Story Bank Journal is your opportunity to take that time to say, these are the stories, these are the moments in life that happened to me, and this is why they matter. This is why we are who we are, and I want you to remember this. Right? That is how you increase conversions. You make it deeper. You create a deeper desire. You make this something that is more than just an item. You make it you make it come alive. You make it something that's real. Yeah, and that's to me, I've seen it happen in my own business, and I don't just talk about these things, I implement them in my own business. And I see it happen over and over where people, they shift in their seat when they hear the story. I'll tell you one last story as we wrap this up. I'll tell you one last story that I use when I do a consulting session with my clients, and this is the opening story that I start with. And I'll warn you that it's an emotional story, but it's a story that I start with. In 2014, I went to Spokane, Washington. Spokane, Washington is the furthest northwest point of America. Washington State, at least, is the furthest northwest point of America. And I live in Florida, which is the furthest southeast point of America, right? And I had this crazy idea, Lizzie, crazy idea. I'm 25 years old. I'm coming back home from a 3-day conference. And I said to myself, you know what? You go to conferences and it's like you get in so much information and then you get back home and that notebook just gets tucked away of all the notes that you had from the conference. And I was like, yeah, I don't want to do that this time. So I had the crazy idea that I would take a Greyhound bus back home from the furthest northwest point of America to the furthest southeast point of America. Yeah, it was one of the dumbest ideas I've had in a long time. I was miserable by day 2. Miserable. Let's just say there's a lot of weird people on the Greyhound bus.
Yeah, that was a choice, Jude. That was a choice.
And so I get to Chicago, Illinois. And this whole time I have my phone off because, again, I'm trying to digest the information I just got from this conference. But I turn back on my phone, and one of the very first text messages I get is from my sister. And it says, call me back, it's urgent. Now, this is 2014, July 2014. And in March, my father had been diagnosed with prostate cancer. And earlier that year, my mom had attempted suicide. She was suffering from depression. So when I get this text message from my sister, I know it's either mom or dad. I brace myself. And when I call my sister back, she says they found our dad in the house unresponsive. Now, I know what that means. They won't tell me because I'm on the road, but I know that means he's passed away and I need to get home. So I get off the Greyhound bus and I take the first flight back home from Chicago, Illinois. I fly to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and my brother comes to pick me up. He comes with his niece, he comes with his daughter, my niece, Ayana. I hug my brother, I don't say a word. I hug my niece, I don't say a word. But I sit in the back seat with my niece, Ayana, because I'm 25 years old. I'm the youngest of 10 children, and my father will never get to see me get married or have children. And I feel lost in this moment. And while I'm sitting there, we're driving back to my father's house. My niece, Ayana, who's only 9 years old, she looks at me and she says, Uncle, why did Grandpa have to die? And I just stared at her because I don't know how to respond to a 9-year-old. She said it again, why did Grandpa have to die? That question rang in my ears. We're making funeral arrangements. We're, working together as a family to figure out what to do next. And I'll never forget August 9th, 2014, Jude Charles, the youngest of 10 children, is asked to give my father's eulogy. And in that moment, I realized why Grandpa had to die. Grandpa had to die because not only is leadership a part of my life, it's the ability to lead through difficult moments. It is what I mean by having relentless courage, to lead and empower others to have relentless courage. Now, Lizzie, I start with that story in consulting sessions because I say to my clients, the questions I'm going to ask you in this session are going to be deep. It's almost going to feel like you're being too vulnerable, and it's going to feel scary. But I want you to trust in the same way that I've led my family through a difficult moment. I want you to trust that I'm going to be able to lead you through this difficult moment. Because this is not about storytelling. This is not about video. This is about leading you through this moment, this process that we have in this moment. Story, I could have walked in that meeting and I could have said, hey, I'm going to ask you a lot of deep questions and it's going to feel uncomfortable, but trust me. Just trust the process, right? We've heard that 1,000 times. Just trust the process. By letting you into my world, by giving you a front row seat into my world and something very difficult I've had to experience and deal with, it brings the guards down. I've been vulnerable with you. Now you can be vulnerable with me. That is the power of storytelling. That is what happens when you take the time to incorporate stories. And it doesn't have to be a dramatic, emotional story like the one I just told where it's your deepest, darkest moment. It can be a funny story. But when you're transferring emotion, when you're communicating to someone else in a deeper way, that is what increases conversions. It's not just an idea. It's a study that's been done before, which is why I shared significant objects. But we see it repeated over and over. It's also why Apple will take the time every year to do a show of their iPhone. Even though we all know what the iPhone is, they will still take the time to tell stories of how this iPhone is transforming lives. It's because there's something deeper that's happening. And that is why you should take the time to work on the stories. The stories will help increase your conversions. in your Etsy store.
Having you do a documentary sounds like the most profound therapy session in the world.
It is, it's funny you say that because clients actually, that's exactly what they say. They say this feels like therapy. But yeah, it is. And it's healing. It's healing.
Yes.
Knowing that we are all here for a purpose. And it's not always to buy something, but it is to leave this world a better place in whatever way that you bring that. And I happen to be skilled in being able to tell stories and bring those stories to life through video. You happen to be skilled in helping others bring their Etsy shop to life and to be profitable in their businesses. There's still so many stories in that, though. And again, if you hear nothing else, it is take the time to share these stories because these stories are in you. They're just waiting to be told.
Thank you for being our teacher today. I feel like for once I get to sit here and learn a lot. I have so many more questions, but it's so fun. I feel invigorated.
That is awesome.
Okay, I have
Thank
one
you.
more question for you. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No,
No, go ahead.
You're that calm, collected. I'm like they have to slow me down on their 2 times speed. Today they're gonna have it normal. You're a good influence on me, although I feel like a firework about to explode. So yeah, if you had a thought, please share it.
No, I'm good. Go ahead.
I wanted to ask you what your favorite business book is.
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know if I have one. So I'm looking at 2 books that I've kind of been rereading lately, and they're very on opposite ends. There's one called King Icon, which is about Carl Icahn, billionaire out of New York. He was known as a raider. He would do these takeovers. I like to read books about businesses that I know nothing about because I learned business strategies out of those books that I can implement in my own business. So that's one. But another one that's really good is Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guidara.
That's you to a T.
Yeah. That's another good one that honestly are kind of my favorites this is my 3rd time rereading King Icon and then 2nd time rereading Unreasonable Hospitality. I read a lot of books a year, but I love to reread certain ones, and those are at the top of my list. Another one that I think I need to remind myself of often is The One Thing.
Yes.
Which I believe is by Gary Keller, I believe. It's another one of my top, like if I had top 5, those would be on the top 3 list. Yeah, those are like
Did you ever
top.
read the when you mentioned King Icon, which I haven't read, did you ever read the Life is Good story, the brand of the Life is Good?
No.
Jude, I just gave you some mind candy. You want to talk about
the
vision
good.
of that brand? Oh my gosh. Okay. So if you choose to read it, I would love just a 2-second email from you telling me what you thought of it, if you choose to. But that's an
You said the Life is Good?
Life is Good. So you know that t-shirt brand?
I'm familiar.
Like book, mind-blowing business book, because I, like them, a very campy, a little bit hippie, very casual. Like it's so it got, which is opposite of you, but you're going to love the story. You're going to love the story. It's so good. Okay.
Well, yeah, I'm ordering it now.
Yeah, I'll definitely let you know. Send it to you.
Oh, well, you can do that too.
Okay,
you can do that too.
Well, I'll see if you're like a PO box or something offline. But okay, so guys, I'm going to link those books. Obviously, I'm going to link the Story Bank Journal because we need that. I am ordering that today. I need that so badly. So you got at least one sale there, Jude. But see, go ahead and apply for his email list. It's one of the best email lists you'll ever be on. It's just so uplifting and encouraging. And like I said, he gets me with every headline. I don't know how the man does it, but it's worth it. So you can apply. I remember when I applied. So actually you're going to have to disarm us a little bit here, Jude, because I remember when I applied, I'm like, I'm not good enough. He's not going to accept me. So I know my listeners are going to be like, he's not going to let me on that list. So I don't, maybe diffuse that. If that's
Here's the secret. Yeah, here's the secret. As long as so there's some people that try to apply and they don't actually give any information. As long as you give me some information because like one of the questions I ask is tell me about yourself. And some people would give a one-liner. As long as you tell me about yourself, because again, the whole point for me is to make a deep connection. I really want to know who you are. The rest of it is kind of pointless. It's really about, is this person somebody I want to have a conversation with? And 9 times out of 10, as long as you put information there, real information, obviously, as long as you put information there, you will get accepted. So
I'm so glad I asked you
that.
Yeah,
just tell me about yourself.
Glad. It's
Yeah.
worth it, you guys,
Yeah.
because you're going to, even just seeing how he does things is incredible. Where can people find you and connect on the interwebs?
My website, just judecharles.co. I am on social media. In this last year, I haven't spent as much time on Instagram. That's the primary place, but I haven't spent as much time there. The newsletter is the deepest place to connect with me. I read and respond to every single person that responds to me. So judecharles.co is the website, and Lizzie will link all of the rest of the links to get everything else.
Everything is there. Again, sir, thank you for the honor of your time, for being our teacher, and for being so wonderful. And you all, I cherish you with my whole heart. Thank you so much for being here and spending this time with us together today. I can't wait to get the DMs on this one. This is going to be so fun. But take care of yourselves. Until next week, go make something awesome. Bye, guys. And that's a wrap on this episode of How to Sell Your Stuff on Etsy. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. If you're looking for more resources, head on over to howtosellyourstuff.com, where you'll find podcast show notes, all the links from today's episode, the blog, courses, coaching, and more. If this episode was helpful to you, awesome. The greatest compliment I can receive from you is a rate, review, and subscribe on this podcast. Not only will it allow us to connect again on a future episode, it lets me know I'm providing you with value and helps other people find this content more easily. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for your support. Have a great day and see you next time.